Cleveland Browns are going to win the AFC North in 2024. Now, I'm going to give you my top 3 reasons why. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. To the everyday crowd, we love you. I suggest you become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, I'm on record, obviously, for the Cleveland Browns to win the AFC North in 2024. In this episode, I'm going to give you my top 3 reasons why. First off, I want to start by wishing everybody a happy Labor Day weekend. Most of the community of the Locked On Browns faithful are already back to school in that flow. For us, we start next week. So get that nice long weekend in as summer starts to get into the rearview mirror and we head full on in football season. Cleveland Browns, no news of today. Mandatory between the league and the NFL Players Association. The players get Labor Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to work Monday for week 1 prep. So in regards to the Cleveland Browns and getting this elusive 2024 AFC North title. Now, I could sit here and talk about my issues or beliefs that I have with the 3 other teams within the North, and there are some that I think are concerning for those teams. But I'm going to give you my 3 biggest positives as to why I think the Cleveland Browns will rise, become the cream of the crop of the AFC North in the 2024. You talk about this defense, and I will continue to say it till I am blue in the face. I don't think enough people are giving credit to what this defense did last year, which was, first year regime under defense coordinator Jim Schwartz. The way they played so quickly, collectively as a unit out of the box is rare. Defenses don't normally, new defenses, hit the ground running like that. It is not the norm in football. Your defense usually takes longer to come around. It is such a huge portion of, each player doing their assignment, being good at their assignment, being good overall. But it's also the understanding of that 11 guys on defense need to work as one. And with the way the spring goes in the NFL now, the way training camp goes, the less exhibition games and the less participation in exhibition games of starters, it shouldn't come together this quickly. It shouldn't gel as quickly as it did. Now, here it is, year 2, and you have a name brand defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz. He's had success in many places, certainly Tennessee, certainly Philadelphia. And Jim Schwartz is a household name as a defensive coordinator. And you look at, the 3 layers of the Cleveland Browns defense going here for 2024. Certainly you think about the defensive line. You have such immense talent, starting with the reigning defensive player of the year in Myles Garrett. Zadarius Smith, his 5.5 sacks last year, is probably going to go up. Alex Wright in his 3rd year, a player that nobody seems to even mention when they talk about the Browns. So when you hear people give their opinion on the Browns and nobody talks about the developmental path of a player like Alex Wright, you understand they're probably not doing their homework in regards to the Cleveland Browns. Alex Wright was a guy who probably played more than he should have as a rookie. Injury certainly led to that. At times may have been, following a veteran player who was by no means a leader in Jadeveon Clowney. So with him gone, And with guys last year like Ogbo Okoronkwo, with guys like Zadarius Smith, Alex Wright, to his own credit for all the work that he had put in, and for a system that was more willing to understand and just let Alex do his thing. Alex Wright really developed in year 2. He is going to take yet another jump here in year 3. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Alex Wright is probably going to be in a situation where he should either come very close to second in snap count percentage from the defensive ends. And it shouldn't be just by injury. It should be on the development of his game. Really, really strong player. So the defensive line, and then you throw in certainly Dalvin Tomlinson, the addition of Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst. If those two can continue the contributions they gave this team last year. Eventually, Mike Hall will be a part of this defense, and Mike is a special talent himself. The linebacker unit, you have the first linebacker, and it's been a long time since the Browns took a linebacker from the rookie deal to the second deal. There was a lot of talk about whether it was going to happen from Joe Schobert. He was promised it by the John Dorsey regime, never got it. And when his camp first met the Andrew Berry regime, they were kind of like, we're just not really going to go that way. We're going to go another way. Jeremiah Uso-Koromoa, the year he had, now you're putting him with a player who can give equal statistical production in Jordan Hicks. A lot more experience, certainly a lot better overall player than Sione Takitaki and Anthony Walker. Hey, they were my guys, but facts are facts. Jordan Hicks has a better proven record. So your linebacking unit, along with your defensive line, should be a top 10 unit. And shall we get to this ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous, secondary? Ward, Emerson, Greg Newsome. I will put these three up against any cornerback trio in the NFL. And it's good because they're all kind of versed now, can play a little bit inside, can play a little bit outside. Everybody thinks that Martin Emerson is going to take yet another jump here in year 3 after he took a tremendous jump in year 2. Genu really, really in himself now, a lot more confidence. The 3 young guys behind him all appear to have strong abilities. Then you get to the safeties. And Juan Thornhill should have a better year than he did last year. Grant Delpit was playing lights out until that injury ended his season. You got a guy like Rodney McLeod who was out here basically looking at one last year in the sun, padding up that resume, most likely going to go to the TV side and football content side of football when he is done after this last season here with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns defense is going to be a top 3 defense with the potential of all 3 units maybe being top 5 in the NFL, but certainly top 10. We're going to continue on here with your top 3 reasons the Cleveland Browns are going to win the North in 2024. I am Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate you all for being here. Me, I'm an early riser. I'm up at 4:45 in the morning. So we hit that a little bit after lunch, and man, do I need a kick. And 5-Hour Energy is just the thing to continue to get me through my day. 5-Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy, hectic day. You always know where to find 5-Hour Energy shots right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5-Hour Energy shots. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Will win the AFC North in 2024. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Do not miss a drop of the action. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. So we're talking here, and look, I've been on record. I've been on record here. Any show I go on to where they want to ask me what I think the fate of the 2024 Cleveland Browns is, it's pretty simple. I think the Cleveland Browns are taking home the AFC North, and there will be playoff football in Cleveland Browns Stadium this year. I'm not backing down, not now. So we certainly discussed the defense and the absolute depth and talent within each one of those defensive groups. The offensive side of the ball, and this was always going to be kind of the thing here, with Deshaun, and it was going to trend that way last year anyway. When you made that investment, it was going to be a quarterback first team. Certainly it came to fruition week 2 when you lost Nick Chubb. And then it was all on Deshaun, and 5-1 last year is 5-1. Whether you want to disagree with it, not, and it's certainly not a great measuring stick, for a quarterback who was paid like a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 10, 11. I'm not sure where Deshaun's money is at anymore. It changes so much, right? So using, QB wins is certainly not the measuring stick. But the changes that were made on the offensive side of the ball, and where this team is going to throw it more, and certainly with Nick being out till earliest October, and again, you guys know I'm okay with Jerome Ford. He's not Nick Chubb, but I'm okay with Jerome Ford. But you have the weapons in the skill positions to become a pass first offense. You can spread it out when you have Amari Cooper, when you have Jerry Jeudy, who will put up his best statistical season ever, when you have Elijah Moore, who all of a sudden, as a third or fourth option, it seems almost a little bit more scarier because he has all the talent in the world. When he's been put in that number 2 spot, it's not been the best return for Elijah Moore. But you put him where he's probably the third or fourth or maybe even fifth option, Elijah Moore's a lot more effective. Cedric Tillman has just got a big physical presence at the wide receiver position. He is not built like any of the others. If none of them were wearing jerseys and maybe they were all wearing masks, you would know exactly who Cedric Tillman is. He is a big, fast, yoked up individual, and that hopefully can help this team do some damage between the hash marks. Can play a lot of high-low with him and certainly with David Njoku. You guys saw the reception against Seattle Seahawks in the final preseason game. He's a big target over the middle, and having David to do that is great, but having somebody else that can do it in Cedric Tillman is great as well. David Bell just kind of the professor of the wide receiver room. He just knows how to get open, and there's going to be times where David Bell is going to give you a couple key plays. Jamari Thrash, is kind of hard to wonder or predict how many reps, certainly targets, he may see as a rookie, but you understand there's talent there. And what he did this summer was not certainly a Austin Watkins of 2023. Jamari Thrash can play. He balled out of Georgia State. Took that jump to Louisville to basically beef up his resume, and it all panned out for Jamari Thrash. Jamari Thrash is going to get it done for this team. It's just a question of whether or not he's a 24 player or he's a 25 and beyond player for the Cleveland Browns. I haven't even spoken about number 85, David Njoku, yet. Coming off the year that I think a lot of people felt that was in David, and it certainly took time. And, there were times where you thought David was going to bust out earlier in his career, and certainly some injuries here and there. I think coaches, truly didn't know what to do with him just yet. Maybe there was some, when the Browns got here, they weren't positive because he missed a lot of time in 2019. So it's not like the Browns just said, okay, we'll put the kid in there. And, so they brought in Austin Hooper, which kind of muddied the waters just a tad bit. Now, with knowing what David did last year and just the overall speed, power, reducing the drops, David is much more consistent catcher of the ball now at this point in his career. Always had all the world athleticism, the all-world body, certainly put in all the work in the world to become a legit hand in the dirt blocking tight end. To his credit, some guys, when they have all the athleticism in the world, they don't want to put in that type of effort. because it's the athleticism has always gotten them so far and has basically opened every door for them and given them every opportunity. Didn't have to be the case. David busted his butt. And you saw by the time, halfway through 2020, maybe a little further down the road, you already knew at that point that, David Njoku was already better than Austin Hooper. And the Browns were in this little weird situation with Austin Hooper on the roster. These guys are all able and willing and have the ability to put up big numbers. And, the way the offense is going to work this year is going to be a little bit more similar to what Deshaun was comfortable with at Clemson, with what Deshaun was comfortable with in his time in Houston. And it's not going to be where it's, hey, if the run game gets going, we're just going to keep going with it. The run game's probably not going to get going like it certainly did in the first 4 years. I should say 3, probably, obviously. The running game had its issues last year. But the first 3 years of the Barry Stefanski regime, you just didn't have that urgency to have to throw unless you were down. But and even when they were down, there were times where the Browns would be down 10-0, 13-0, 14-0. And what kind of dug them out of the hole? Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is what dug them out of the hole. You don't have that at least until October, and we have any certainty that it will be that case. And I keep telling people, and I'm sure I've said it here, and Deshaun doesn't have to throw for 5,000. Deshaun doesn't have to throw 50 touchdowns. Deshaun has to have a high completion percentage, which he has shown the ability to do in the past, and he needs to avoid the turnovers. He needs to avoid the bad interceptions. The one last year in Indianapolis, that unfortunate one that Kyle Hamilton took from him last year in Baltimore and took to the end zone. Deshaun is a better thrower of the ball than that. And with the confidence I think he is at, and I think, and you've heard him on his own podcast talk about, himself knowing that ideally he's a notorious slow starter in games and ideally a notorious slow starter within seasons. So when somebody usually speaks of this and can list their criticisms of their own game, can critique their own game, you kind of get an idea of maybe what was the forefront of what you spent your time working on in your off season. Certainly Deshaun was rehabbing, but doesn't mean he's still not working on his game. So I think the influence of trying to get going earlier, which means looking for your shorter routes, hitting whoever's open, not pushing it. Those are all things you're going to see from Deshaun, and you're going to see from his 6 wide receivers, his tight end, and certainly from his running backs. Cleveland Browns passing game is going to take a big, big step up in 2024. This is your latest Locked On Browns. Everybody, stick around. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Closing out your latest Locked On Browns, talking about the top 3 reasons that the Cleveland Browns will win the AFC North in 2024. We've talked about the 3 levels of defense and how they will all be, if not top 5, top 10 in the rankings of the respective units within the NFL. The passing game, and with the switch to Ken Dorsey and him coming in with his influence and working with Coach Stefanski, kind of reinventing the offense, which is going to be predicated on throwing the ball to your more than capable and certainly very talented skill players in David Njoku and Amari Cooper and the rest of the wide receiver room. But one of the biggest things, and for me, this is something that's not talked about enough. We're talking about a franchise that for so many years was forever changing, wasn't giving anything a chance to work. And to be fair, a lot of those things were so egregious and weren't working at all in any way whatsoever. You understood why they did what they did. But you are now in year 5 of your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, paired with general manager Andrew Berry. Continuity. When you can put the same thing out there, you can attract players from other teams because they know that Kevin Stefanski is the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, has been the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and will be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns for the foreseeable future. They know that this organization is run by a guy who was not that old, in his 30s, Andrew Berry, was a former collegiate player himself, will work with his owner to finesse the salary cap, to pay players who are deserving of big-time money, will continue to put out a great product roster-wise, year in and year out. Continuity. A player like Myles Garrett. Now, keep in mind, you could have seen when the whole Baker thing was kind of going off the rails and you knew that they were going to move on, instead of trading the franchise for Deshaun Watson, they could have said, what if we put Myles Garrett out there and we try to get ourselves as high up into the pecking order in the draft as we can? Not saying it would have worked, but that is some foolish things that we have seen from the Cleveland Browns in the past, is not continuing. What did they say? They identified we have a potential and now will be Hall of Fame pass rusher. That is one of the best things we have going for ourselves. What else did they do? Continuity. I know this has been a thing with you guys as of late. If y'all, well, they're picking bad apples. They're chasing after bad character guys. You know, they extended Nick Chubb, kept Nick Chubb after the horrible injury. Why? Because Nick Chubb is a class act individual. This whole Brandon Ayuk, this whole Jamar Chase, what you've seen these guys do over the past weeks and months. No, they brought in a guy like Amari Cooper, who is a very good person within the locker room. He carries himself unlike most wide receivers. Look what's gone on with these two guys, Ayuk and Chase. Amari Cooper, you didn't see any of that. You didn't even hear from agents, none of that stuff. You knew Amari wanted more money. So the Browns sat down, found a way to make it work, and appease Amari Cooper with a better salary for 2024. Continuity. Now, guys like Joe Bitonio, guys like Wyatt Teller, you could have moved any one of those guys. You didn't. You thought they were stalwarts. You thought they were really good players. So you took the onus, you took the effort to make sure they were financially happy and satisfied and built your offensive line around them. Continuity. Denzel Ward, another player. When it came time to pay him, they could have said, well, wasn't our guy. We love to draft defensive backs. We love to draft cornerbacks. We love to evaluate secondary players. You have a general manager who was a corner. You have a head coach who was a safety. We know their affinity for the defensive back position. Could have been, all right, let's move on. Because we're going to do this anyway. We're going to dig in. We're going to find players. No. You realized he was special. You realized he was good. And you made it an onus. And the other thing that I love is that they doubled down on what they think is important to them. So now you have Myles Garrett, you have Zadarius Smith, Obo Okoronkwo, Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, probably going to give a little bit more this year than he certainly did as a rookie. JOK, the first linebacker they've ever extended. You bring in a guy like Jordan Hicks for basically dirt cheap free money. So they have just put so much effort in to making this roster and realizing what isn't working and what is working. For all the years we laughed about, my God, could we just get one defensive tackle to make a play? When Mike Hall returns, they will have 5 defensive tackles that are capable of being starters within the NFL. Crazy. Probably 3 to 4 defensive ends that are capable of being starters in the NFL. You look at your reserve corners in Mitchell, Halassi, Harden, all can play. They have worked their butts off to make this the product that it is today. And things like that are exactly why the Cleveland Browns are going to win the North in 2024. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate every one of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. I suggest you become a filthy animal. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.